Chapter 185 All things considered, I think I'm still not a fan of kissing. It's not bad, though. Not like I was expecting. It's just one of those things that humans do that I've always thought was weird and vaguely gross. As an athanatos, I don't even have a mouth in the right place to make kissing work, so it doesn't really feel like much of anything. In that respect, it's quite tolerable. It's worth it just to feel Penelope's reaction. Melrosa chimes in. Okay, you're right, that's definitely true. Penelope's emotional reaction felt awesome. I snuggled closer to my big, warm dragon woman, soaking in the comfort of finally having her back in my life. Not quite the way it was before, but no worse for it. Penelope's emotions are a tumultuous storm, as is her soul itself, but the love that's blooming and growing is still gorgeous to watch. Vigor carved it all out of her, severing the emotion from the memories, but Penelope still has the memories of us, of what we were together, and the empty grooves where love was missing have no trouble accepting new life flowing into them. I let out a sigh of satisfaction, my antennae twitching with amusement when I pick up on Penelope getting ticklish about the rush of warm air hitting her tummy. Well, I think that sensation is ticklishness, anyway. No, I'm pretty sure that sensation is being naked with my girlfriend in my lap. Melrosa chuckles. But I suppose it's a little hard to tell right now. Yeah, her soul is a mess. Original Penelope had beautiful pink bubbles on the bottom and a half shell of craggy ridges on top. Post-Vigor Penelope, meanwhile, built those craggy ridges into a full sphere, completely trapping herself inside. Now, her soul is shattered chaos, fragments of solidified principle swimming around inside a frothy whirlpool that's boiling over. Constantly in motion, constantly churning, Penelope's soul isn't even recognizable as human. She needs serious help and she needs it quickly. The help she needs probably isn't animancy, though. Yeah, that. She's not dying or anything, she's just recovering from a psychotic break. Which is, pretty bad, but animancy would almost certainly add to the problem in this situation. It's best to calm her down mundanely. Let her settle on her own time, and then triage any severe damage if necessary. It most likely won't be necessary, though. Souls are resilient and generally pretty good at self-repair. Plus, this way gives us more time to sit here and cuddle. Yeah. That too. That's a pretty nice bonus. Vita? Penelope says quietly. I murmur back. What am I feeling right now? Huh? That's a bit of an odd question. I think she's genuinely confused. Not hard to see why. Lot of things, I answer quietly. Pretty much all of the things. I don't want to cry, she says. Is your body trying to cry? I ask. Yes. Let it. She takes a shaky breath and holds me a little tighter. I don't comment as my head starts to get wet. I've never been much of a crier, with most of Vita's life being one in which I can't show weakness or waste water without consequences. Of course, now I can't cry at all, not that I miss the experience. I cried a lot when Angelian died, though. Probably a few other times, too. If that's what Penelope's instincts say she needs, now is a good time to listen to them. They're a bit. Well, I mean, they exploded. Something obviously went wrong with ignoring them. I hate this, Penelope sobs quietly. It's okay, I reassure her. Let yourself feel it. I don't want to feel it, she insists. I don't want to feel anything. Well, you don't really have a choice in the matter. Sorry. She chuckles humorlessly, tears still flowing. Evidently not, she agrees. I suppose I'm stuck being a fucking psychopath forever. Jalisa says it's bad to pretend to be something that we are not, I say. But at the same time, it's okay to not like parts of yourself. The trick isn't to deny the parts you hate, but to acknowledge and learn to work around them. Self-improvement isn't about running away, it's about facing yourself head-on. But I tried that, Penelope shudders. I tried to do that my entire life. I failed. You were alone, I remind her. I'm starting to suspect that self-improvement is extra difficult if you're by yourself. I had you before, too, Penelope points out. Eh? I shrug. I'm not sure you did, honestly. A pulse of fear rings through her. Whoops, that wasn't my intention. What do you mean? She asks. I mull my thoughts over in my head a bit, not really sure what to say. When we finally speak, it's Mortist saying the words. I don't think the Vita from before was emotionally mature enough to help you, I say. Not that we're a lot better now, but at least we realize we should try. We? Penelope starts, then shakes her head. Oh. Right. I'm sorry, I'm so jumbled I didn't even ask who you are. It's been Vita until just now, I explain. Though honestly, she and I have been thinking about changing our names. It feels weird to have Vita not refer to me. I still feel like that's partially my name, the same way she still feels like she's Mortist. Thinking of new names is really fucking hard, though, Vita grumbles. I've never wanted a different name before, I'm no good at naming things. I feel much the same way, but at least we don't have to decide now. Sooner is better, though. I'd feel like a fool making everyone get used to calling us something and then going whoops. Never mind about that, new names, actually. HRM. That's true enough. I'm sure people won't mind if they care about us, but it would be nice to have it sorted out. I don't have any good ideas, though. I don't either. The best I've come up with is wrath and pride, but that's, a bit self-insulting and oversimplified. Although still pretty funny. I'm obviously pride, I suppose. Yeah. Being funny is a shitty reason for it to be our names, but it still amused me. Agreed. We deserve better names than that, but we should probably be focusing on Penelope right now. Oh, true. What about Tal? Penelope suggests. Pardon? I ask, twisting my head to look at her face. For your name. Tal. It's a noble name, currently unused. I think it would be quite fitting for a gutter rat of Skyhope who returned as royalty. Nobles are named after great mountains of legend that were said to belch flaming stone, red-hot liquid that poured from their peaks and demanded respect from all of mankind. My grandfather was given the title of Vesuvius, and I was deemed worthy of the name, because Vesuvius is one of the most legendary mountains of death. It is said to have not only slain an entire city in moments, but preserved its victims, locking them in time to serve as a warning to future generations. It is the mountain of fear. And what's Tal? I ask, wiggling a little to shift my weight for comfort. Penelope, in response, brings her tail around my back, coiling it over both of us and adding another layer to our cocoon of tentacles. Tal was said to look like a tiny, unassuming thing, Penelope explains, resting her chin on top of my head. To prevent me from looking at her? She's embarrassed by something. Barely a mountain, it jutted up like a noob from the middle of a lake. But it has slaughtered thousands, and in truth it is far, far larger than just what humans see of it. I love it, I say honestly. Tal. I'll take that as a name. I want a name that represents Liriope. If you have a name from Vaka, Vita says. I honestly like the most obvious answer. Do you? Yeah. It's a good name. My other self will be Zoe, I announce. A word for life, from our people's original language. But for simplicity's sake, you're more than welcome to call both of us Vita or Melrosa, if you aren't sure who we are or want to refer to both of us together. I think that fits us best. I am somewhat jealous of your ability to decide such things, Penelope sighs. I do not know what fits me anymore. I suppose, at least in terms of clothing, there is nothing which fits me anymore. I need to rectify that. I will be quite surprised if Nugas doesn't already have you a wardrobe prepared, I chuckle. Finally able to experience the embarrassment of immodesty again? That doesn't really have much to do with it, Penelope says, shaking her head slightly. At least I don't think so. I don't have any issue with people seeing me naked. If anything, it makes a lot of things easier. I think I like clothing, however. I prefer it. Why were you going without, then? Had a principle against wasting textiles. No, Penelope answers. No principle. Clothing is just for people. Oh, Penelope. I give her a squeeze, not knowing how to respond. You don't put clothing on a tool, no matter how useful or complicated, she continues. That's all I was. All I wanted to be. It still is, even now that the certainty is broken and gone. It's what? Vigor, she. Hey, it's okay, I assure her, patting her head with a few tendrils. I still want to help her. Penelope sobs. She's dead, I killed her, but she's still in there, like no one and nothing else matters, and I don't want to feel it. Like no one else matters? What about us? Zoe grumbles, but we're both ashamed of the thought when it happens. Penelope is distraught and we can feel the love she has for us. Getting annoyed by something like this is stupid and hurtful. We know that, but we're still not good at this sort of thing yet. I've been freeing my revenants, but they still feel the same about me, I admit. Animancy is horrifying. It's going to be hard, Penelope, but we'll help. Zoe and I, but also Jelisaveta, Theodora, Nugas, Lark, Zena, Nora. Everyone. You have plenty of people who understand and still want to help. You're not alone against the world anymore. I don't know how to feel about any of this, Penelope sighs. I know, I assure her. But you have plenty of time to figure it all out. Your soul is going to take at least a few days to heal on its own. You're going to leave it alone during that time, okay? Okay, she says softly. It's going to be hard, I tell her. But I will be here as much as you need me. When both of us are confident that it will be safe, we'll take you home. In the meantime, it'll be you and me. The town needs me, Penelope says tiredly. Not as much as you need a break. The others will handle it. Nugas knows everything that'll need done in your absence. You know, there was a time I would have scoffed at the idea of putting Nugas in charge, Penelope comments tiredly. Now I'm not sure there's anyone in the world that would be better for the job. And I think there's also no one that I'm more afraid of. Yeah, that's fair, I shudder. Has she successfully seduced you yet? I still don't think I understand Nugas well enough to understand if having sex with her would be morally reprehensible or not, Penelope says hesitantly. Animancy and consent are like oil and water. I mean, I feel like she's pretty enthusiastically consenting, Vida says. I mean, Zoe says. I say. This is going to take some getting used to. 2 years ago, it was fucked up. Now it's a bit creepy, but like. She's still Nugas. You don't have any compulsions on her that force her to stay that way, right? Well, no. Then if she is not her own independent person by now, when will she be? She's pretty obviously making her own decisions. You sure didn't order her to design the calamity protocol. Okay, but she's obsessed with me to the degree that she'd literally let me kill her if I wanted to, Penelope answers. Yeah, and you think that's hot? Penelope brings her hands up to her face and rubs her eyes in exasperation, her body starting to turn a little pink. Why are we even? There is something horribly and uniquely Vita about the fact that, after finally getting me to agree to be your girlfriend, the first thing you do is encourage me to have sex with my maid. I am not going to. You sure? You went through all the trouble of giving yourself an idealized body without removing the obvious weak point between your legs, I smirk. You may as well get some use out of it other than showing it off all the time. Bright pink. Penelope's whole body shifts to bright pink as a rush of embarrassment fills her soul. Maybe we should slow down a bit. Pushing her like this while she's fragile is risky. I guess she's right. No matter how funny, and relieving, it is to see Penelope actually embarrassed about stuff, it's not a smart thing to be prodding too hard. Sorry, I backpedal. I just want you to be happy. That's the whole reason we were all so worried about you before. It's fine, Penelope mumbles. I appreciate that you've always supported my active sex life, but I think this is the sort of territory you should err on the side of assuming you don't understand. Okay, I guess that's fair, I sigh. I feel like I'm kind of caught between not wanting to understand it and not wanting to seem like I don't understand it. I'm not totally ignorant anymore, it's not like I'm a virgin. What? Penelope blinks. Oh. You mean Esmeralda, you? Yeah, plenty of times, I shrug. I remember liking it, but also it's kind of gross now? If that makes sense? A little, Penelope nods, relaxing a bit now that we're no longer talking about her. What changed? Just your merger? Well, that played a big part of it, I confirm. Vida and Melrosa had very different opinions on the subject, and Vida's sort of just won out, overall. But there's also the issue with my reduced tactile sensation. Even if I wanted to have sex again, I'm not sure I'd physically enjoy it all that much. My body just isn't responsive in that way, what with so many soul threads snaking around between my nerves and drinking up my internal organs. Ah, I see, Penelope nods. There's a beat of silence. What was that last bit? I ask innocently. The, internal organs part, Penelope clarifies with impressive restraint. Oh, that, I answer blithely. Don't worry, it's mostly intentional and probably harmless. Remember back when I kept growing eyeballs and meat tentacles as a human? I'm trying to be a bit more productive with those instincts, is all. Optimizing more efficiently rather than just adding mass onto mass at random. It's frankly not the most comfortable experience, and it's been very slow going, but it's nice not having to worry about sprouting extra eyeballs in random places. My modifications are entirely internal, at least for now, so it hasn't been anything worse than a somewhat ill feeling or bout of minor aches. The work I'm doing is delicate and at least somewhat experimental, but the progenitor has at least confirmed that the theory is sound. I see, Penelope says slowly. I trust you, but I'd feel better if I could look you over once I'm feeling stable enough to cast again. Sure, I allow easily. I'm not sure if you'll actually find all that much, though. As in, I'm genuinely unsure. Biomancy tends to give me really weird information about my changes, stuff I can't parse anywhere near as well as by using my instincts. But Penelope is way better at biomancy than I am, so maybe she can pull it off. If anyone can, it's her. She's back. She's actually, finally back. Yeah. She is. I rub my face against her scales a bit, luxuriating in the smooth, pliable texture. Her storm of a soul is slowing little by little, settling down at a slow yet comfortable pace. She'll never be exactly the same as before, but she's still Penelope anyway. And she is back. Don't you have things that you should be doing? Penelope asks after another pause. Cuddling you is very much my top priority, I assure her. But I'll have to go back to Skyhope tomorrow. Would you be comfortable with Lark here to watch you while I'm away, or do you have plagues that work on Vrotheyes already? To my constant frustration, I do not, Penelope scowls. So Lark should be relatively safe, at least. I'd have to put in more effort than what I can output during a mindless rage to seriously hurt her, I think, and that should be all that's needed. I don't think you're going to try to hurt anyone, for what it's worth, I assure her. That explosive event isn't exactly repeatable in the short time frame. Penelope swallows, nodding slowly. I haven't actually looked at my soul since then, she says softly. Should I? I hesitate. No. Say no. She should let herself heal. We think. No. Just relax, Penelope. We're here, and you're going to be okay. I'm going to be okay, she repeats. All right. I trust you, Vida. Against my better judgment, I trust you. Thanks I think. You're welcome, she huffs. I think. I'm done talking for now. Can't we just sit here a while? I almost say yes, but Tal mentally pokes me and I shut up just in time, nodding my head instead. The two of us stay there together, hugging and relaxing until Penelope insists on getting up and distributing anti-plague at other danger zones. We split off from one another there, with her flying off on her own and me quickly teleporting back to town to grab her some clothes from Nugas. Nugas herself is in relatively good shape, all things considered. Her face and arm are a bit of a mess, but she doesn't seem to mind the pain and is overjoyed to give me some of the outfits she designed for her mistress. I take one of the least scandalous ones I can find and rush back to Penelope, who thankfully seems to be doing all right. We find a decent spot in the forest to wash off all the blood and gore on her. We could just use magic, but I figured Penelope would appreciate a full bath, and then she finally gets dressed for the first time in months. It's a sleek black dress, hugging her waist but frilling out below into wide, wavy patterns. The bottom drops just below her ankles so talon feet barely peek out from the poofy edges, and the top is completely sleeveless, showing off the powerful muscles in her shoulders and arms. The whole thing is backless, the opening going well below where a normal backless dress would cover up in order to fit Penelope's tail out along with her wings. It's admittedly quite beautiful, if more than a little impractical for roughing it out here in the forest. At least Nugas gave her tights for when she flies. I half expected her not to. Penelope hums, lashing her tail back and forth. It's nice, though I'm not sure I like the color. Fuck, she turned black when she had her breakdown. We should have thought of that. You'll have a whole wardrobe when you get back home, I assure her. Yes, Penelope nods. I suppose I will. She steps forward and places one of her giant hands on top of my head, causing my whole body to stagger a little as she ruffles my headset. Her palm is as big as my scalp, and her claws reach all the way down to my neck. With anyone else, I'd hate the sensation, but from Penelope it's quite nice. Thank you, Vita, she says. I'm sorry. Of course, Penelope, I answer, smiling. What else is love for, eh? I suppose we'll find out, she smiles. Together. Yeah, I nod. I guess we will. We spend the rest of the day together, and when night falls I reluctantly fall asleep on her as well. Penelope doesn't sleep, apparently, so I was hesitant to leave her alone, but she assured me it wouldn't be a problem and I should actually be rested when dealing with negotiations, since I'm kind of super bad at them. A day passes, Lark shows up to watch my girlfriend, and before long I'm strolling through the streets of Skyhope again, chatting with a High Templar like we haven't both tried to kill each other. Well, okay, not exactly like that. 3 other Templars also flank me, as if that would do anything. Martial law, huh? Tal asks, which is my name now. Not Malrosa, Tal. Okay, well, Malrosa is also correct, but... Gah. Names are hard. I assume you're in charge? I am, unfortunately, Brahm confirms. I'm much more of a soldier than a leader, so hopefully we'll be able to end this situation soon. He's actually serious, too. Brahm isn't intending to use martial law as an excuse to take over the government in a more permanent fashion. On one hand, I'm rather impressed with the man. I don't exactly have a high opinion of humans in his position, so I wouldn't have expected this from most people. On the other hand, Brahm is one of the few people in power reasonable enough to work with me, so I'm kind of annoyed that I'll have to work so damn hard to make our alliance invaluable before he steps down. Do you have anyone lined up? I ask, trying to get a better idea on my time frame. I'd prefer not to be blindsided by whoever ends up replacing you. That's a difficult question to answer, Brahm hedges. Legally speaking, we'd of course reinstate the king, but the king has spent the past few years being a figurehead, and the real question is who is going to be in charge of manipulating him. I press. Vita's blunter instincts aren't generally great in these sorts of situations, but they're good at getting a conversation moving. The king is young, Brahm sighs. He will need guidance from somewhere, and it will have to be different from the guidance the Templars have been supplying thus far. Well, suffice to say that I have been made aware of corruption within our ranks that needs to be dealt with before we involve ourselves in the political scene at any level. And you think the political scene itself isn't full of corruption? I ask. There's a pause. Not the kind I am capable of dealing with, Brahm answers slowly. I will have to be content with managing the Templars and restoring us to some level of proper order. But in the meantime, you are in charge of the city, I press. Functionally, yes, he confirms. In that case, how would you feel about a road through the forest? Brahm gives me a quiet look, his soul churning in deep thought in a bunker on the other side of the city. A road, he repeats uselessly. No, wait, not uselessly. We shouldn't jump to unflattering viewpoints as a default. It's not a waste, it's a tacit invitation to explain. I believe Lark and Cassia talked about trading salt, I explain. It would help to have a route by which to make that possible. I'd like to enable people to travel more easily between our homes. So that you can take more of them from Skyhope? Brahm grunts. No one lives in my town that hasn't chosen to, I promise. And I don't mean that in a creepy I'm-an-animancer way, I mean we've actually put a lot of effort into making the place worth living in. And you guys have a pretty major wealth disparity problem that we don't. So really, any immigration is your fault. Ha! So there. I'm getting so fucking good at negotiation. Be that as it may, he sighs, we can't actually spare the labor for such an endeavor. I don't need your help, I just want your permission, I dismiss, waving him off. I can build, manage, and maintain the road all by myself. By yourself, do you mean personally, or? Okay, yeah, it's gonna be with a lot of zombies, I confirm. But I'll probably do a bunch of the initial excavating since it's faster that way. The dregs and resin will be for maintenance and safety. He nods hesitantly. It's one thing to be at peace, Brahm says. It's another thing entirely to have active trade relations with an chromantic nation. I am aware that you have little more than disdain for the Mistwatcher, but the people of Vigor are still devoted to the Church's tenets. There is only so much bread we can break with a blasphemer. I sigh. I was afraid of this, but I suppose it's how things usually go. See, that kind of talk concerns me, Brahm, I answer as pleasantly as I can manage. Because it makes me suspect that you're not actually interested in having peace in the first place. It makes me wonder if maybe you just don't think you can afford war at the moment, and so peace is convenient for you, and so you agree to it. For now. But the moment you think you have a shot, you'll take it. After all, we're blasphemers, like you say. You think the world is better without us in it. It's not a question and he knows it, though I am somewhat annoyed to feel him not agree. Really? Does he think of himself as above his own actions? I feel as though I go to great lengths to respect opposing viewpoints, Brahm protests. Is this very conversation not evidence that I'm willing to work around the constraints of my faith? I don't exactly feel respected by the guy who doesn't even want people to be able to walk down a road to see me, I answer blithely. Are the residents of Skyhope sheep that you have to herd? Or are they people that can make their own decisions? People, of course. But, then sometimes they won't choose you, I say, cutting him off. I have recently been convinced that this is okay. That people should be allowed to choose. That some humans will be fine with how I want to do things, and some will not, and I should allow this. And so, Brahm the ubiquitous, I am here with terms of peace and offers of trade. But if you, or whoever succeeds you as ruler of this nation, ever decides that's not the way things should be done, if you ever want to insist that ideologies should be maintained through quarantine and force, well, I allow myself to float up in the air a little, so I can properly look down on Brahm's projection, displaying my disdain in a way a human can understand. I will be most joyful to respond in kind. And there will be absolutely nothing you can do to stop me. You have seen nothing of what I am capable of, High Templar, so I suggest you stay friendly. I will be looking for an excuse. The retinue of actual, non-illusory Templars around us hesitantly grip their weapons, but all I have to do is turn my head and glare. The hands move away, leaving the swords in their sets. I think we could make space for a road, Brahm says slowly. I'm so glad our negotiations can be beneficial for both of us, I respond sweetly. Things go a lot smoother from there on out. The Inquisition is mostly ignorant as to the nature of our counter-plague, but there isn't actually a trap in it so they don't find one and the distribution proceeds quickly enough from there on out. I don't have to do a lot. After seating a few notable people the plan is to literally just sit back and wait. In a month or so we should have full coverage, And once I confirm that we can move on to the counter plague to finally rid people of the indecency of having a mental compulsion to dislike a really horrible man. I don't harbor any hope of Vodka suddenly deciding to be all buddy-buddy with me. Even if I hadn't ended up resorting to threats to drive the negotiation again, there would be lingering animosity between us. They've all spent so long believing me to be a monster that has to be put down that they struggle to wrap their heads around being my ally. And frankly, the feeling is mutual. I'd love nothing more than to just smash the Templars like the fucking hypocritical idiots they are, but my friends want me to take the slower route. And that's fine. I'm immortal. I can wait. Staying in Skyhope for any longer than I have to is a headache, though. The animosity and aggression that surrounds me wherever I go makes me twitchy, and I'm still not used to playing nice. I haven't attacked anybody, but it's been a close thing. It's a relief when I can finally head back home, hug my family for a few minutes, and then fly out to check on Lark and Penelope. Soul Sense says they're both still alive, so that's one worry out of the way. Penelope's eyes are closed and she feels like she's resting, so I touch down next to Lark. She's standing a respectable distance away, looking and feeling more than a little uncomfortable. She looks up at me as I land beside her, but she doesn't say anything. "Everything all right?" I ask. "Penelope is fine," Lark answers, which distinctly isn't a yes. She started ripping trees apart with her bare hands a while back, but I just stayed away and she calmed down. Apologized, too. "That's good to hear," I nod. Everything all right with you, though?" She adjusts her weight awkwardly, hugging herself with her lower pair of arms. "Your emotional sense is kind of annoying," she mutters. Sorry. Aren't you the one who told me to pay more attention to it, though?" She puffs out her cheeks indignantly and looks away. "I guess that's fair," she admits. "It's about Claretta." "Oh yeah?" I ask. "How did that go?" She's quiet, and I start to feel that distant tinge her soul gets when she relives a memory. It's not the kind of panicked spiral she usually has, though. It's more bittersweet. So I leave it alone and wait for her to answer on her own. "She's a broken woman," Lark says softly, "and it's my fault. What I did to her won't ever go away. It hurts, you know? It was in a cruel and possessive way, but I did love her. I think I still do." Again, I say nothing. I've had a pretty bad track record on saying things to Lark, so I figure I should just keep silent. Her soul is still turning thoughts over and over, sorting information in a way that makes me think she'll start talking again without my input. I know she doesn't like me all that much, so she is not really saying this for my benefit. It's just something she needs to say. I guess that's why it meant so much when she said she forgave me, Lark continues, letting out a shuddering breath. I don't think she meant it, but she wanted to mean it. She hates me, but she doesn't think she should. Even after all I did, she thinks I earned forgiveness. And that. I don't know what that means. Shoot, I'm definitely supposed to talk now. What do I say? I'm not good at this stuff. Let's see. Lark still hurts. She's confused. She doesn't understand why Claretta feels that way, but it still impacts her deeply. No, wait. I think she understands, she just doesn't agree with what Claretta feels. There's always been a rock-hard core of self-hate to her emotional spectrum, at least since she killed August. It's still there, but it's finally starting to come loose. It's getting all the right nudges and taps, and maybe someday it'll finally break free and leave her alone. She needs another tap, I think. I can give that a try. It'll be a bit ham-fisted, but it's all I've really got. I think it means that it's time to forgive yourself. Lark's ears flatten against the back of her head. I honestly have no idea if that was a good thing to say or not. I think I successfully chipped at the hate rock a bit, but I also made her mad somehow. What would you know? Lark grumbles quietly. Do you even feel guilt about your actions? About any of the terrible things you've done? Of course I feel guilt, you little. Calm down. She's upset. Right. Okay, thanks Tal. What am I guilty about? The Oberians, for sure. Letting Angelian die. But I guess I mostly blame other people for those things. What do I feel guilty about that's mostly my fault? Well, I feel pretty bad about what I did to you, I admit honestly. Lark takes a deep breath, then nods. Right, she says. You've said that before. Sorry. It feels like whenever you're around, things go badly for me. When I first met you I lost Claretta, but then it was August, then it was the war and losing Melik, and then it was finding out about Nora. It's hard to look at you and not wonder what terrible thing is going to happen to me next. I stare at her for a bit, not entirely sure what to say. Oh, I ultimately decide on. Sorry. It's fine, she says, memories starting to flash through her mind. I'll get over it. Besides, maybe you're right. I ask. Maybe it's time, she says. If even Auntie Princess agrees, I guess I'm running out of reasons to say no. I choke out a surprised laugh at that, shaking my head. You can just call me Vita again, if you want, I assure her. I think the princess thing is a little much after all. Both of me are Vita, both of me are Morosa. We like it best that way. Alright, Lark shrugs. Anyway, do you have Penelope for now? Yeah, I nod. Thanks, Lark. You've been a big help. She nods slowly, looking distant. Yeah, okay, she agrees quietly. You're welcome, I guess. She leaves, stewing in a complicated but not altogether bad set of emotions, and I walk over to sit next to Penelope. The next few days are about the same. I spend the night with the woman I love, pop over to Skyhope to manage the epidemic and talk to self-important humans, then return to help Penelope some more. Set help usually just involves talking, cuddling, and providing reading material while making sure her soul is healing. And I'm pretty sure that it is. It's in constant motion now, flowing and churning with pieces caught up in the current, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything dangerous. A few tests with my manta indicate that it's probably safe for her to start channeling normally again, despite the strangely fluid anima patterns. She's had a few bouts of sudden and hard-to-repress anger as well, but she hasn't directed it at anybody, so after 3 days I encourage her to head back to town. I'll go if you escort me, Penelope mumbles. I still don't trust myself. I can do that, I nod. It's okay, Penelope. You won't hurt anyone. She shrugs, looking about as small as an 8-foot-tall woman can. Her scales are a dull, watery gray. Maybe not today, she answers quietly. I squeeze her waist with my right arms, trying to figure out why she's so depressed all of a sudden. She was really happy just a few hours ago. Maybe the stress of returning to town is bigger than I expected. Where do you want to go first? I ask. Can we talk to Jalisa? Penelope asks. I think she had a lot of things to say to me, but I wasn't really interested in listening to them before. Sure, I nod. Yeah, I probably need to talk to her again too. Today I'm the one to grab her and pick her up, flying the both of us into town together. I touch us down at the edge of town, though, wanting to walk from there to Jalisa's place so Penelope can see that everything has been okay in her absence. I think my trick partially succeeds. She's still sad and very uncharacteristically awkward, but I think she picks up on the fact that everything is still working as it should. It calms some part of her, even if she is not really calm overall. We make it to Jalisa's place and knock on the door, even though there's no way she hasn't heard us. Humans like it when people are polite even if there's no point beyond the fact that people have randomly determined a given thing is polite. She gets up from whatever she was doing to open the door for us. Hello, you two, she greets us tersely, stifling a yawn. Would you like any breakfast? Yes, please. I confirm happily. Miss Vita. Miss Penelope. A certain golden slime girl cheers, flowing down the stairs like a waterfall before reforming into human shape next to the door. Hello. Hey, Melissa. I greet her back. Hello, Melissa, Penelope nods, smiling slightly. Could I maybe have a snack, Miss Vita? Melissa asks, pushing the tips of each faux forefinger together with childlike chagrin. Well, okay, I magnanimously allow, pulling out a sliver of my soul and crushing it to dust for her. But only because you're so cute. She giggles, wiggling happily as I sprinkle the raw anima into her body. Jaleesa watches with a satisfied smile, seeming to be thinking to herself that everything she's done is worth it for moments like these. It's an oddly touching emotional mix, and one that surprises me in a way I'm not sure I can articulate. We relocate to the dining room, Jaleesa and Melissa working the kitchen despite neither of them being able to actually taste stuff like a normal person. Not that I mind, of course. Food is food. Lark's not home, then? I ask. She's usually still out and about this early, Jaleesa confirms. So what can I do for you two? I don't have any problems with a social call, but it's not generally your style. I was hoping we could talk, Penelope says. Just talk. Like you offered back when we were departing Baldoni. Like you did for Vita. Honestly, I should probably have another talk with you too, I shrug. Jaleesa nods slowly. Okay. I can make time for you, no problem. I think it would be easier if we did it one-on-one, though. Penelope and I look at each other. At least for today, I'd be more comfortable if she was with us, Penelope says softly. For your safety, if nothing else. Oh, Jaleesa says. Well, okay, if that makes you more comfortable. After breakfast, then. Please. We eat fairly quickly before moving into a side room and setting up some spells for privacy. Jaleesa spends a moment gathering and preparing stuff while we wait, finding a notepad and scribbling who knows what onto it in order to try and plan for the day. I feel like we've probably imposed on her by coming here out of the blue like this. We should probably schedule these things. That'd help us attend regularly anyway. Still, it doesn't take long for Jaleesa to come into the room, Penelope and I sitting on the quietly protesting couch and Jaleesa sitting in a chair across from us. All right, she says, settling in. What did you want to talk about, Lady Vesuvius? My girlfriend. Yeah, my girlfriend takes a deep breath before answering. I feel as though I have forgotten how emotions work, she says. Which is stupid, because I very clearly remember how emotions work. I still remember who I used to be, how I used to feel, and why I would feel the ways I did. But that knowledge doesn't seem to apply anymore. It's more like I just feel emotions at random, without prompt or cause. They just happen. What kinds of emotions? Jaleesa asks. All of them? Penelope hedges. Happy, sad, angry, stressed. They are occurring now regardless of stimuli. I feel uncontrolled, if not outright insane. Okay, Jaleesa says slowly. Well, as a matter of full disclosure, Lark and I have spoken about her time helping you adjust, and from what she's told me I don't think she'd argue you're uncontrolled or insane. Vita, would you agree or disagree with that? I think she's sound of mind, I confirm. Given those reports, what makes you still describe yourself that way? Jaleesa asks, turning back to Penelope. Emotions should have reason, Penelope answers. People get angry when they are wronged, they get happy when something good happens to them, etc. etc. Emotions resulting from no stimuli are aberrant. They are a sign of an improperly functioning mind. According to who? Jaleesa asks. What? Who determines the definition of a properly working mind? Jaleesa asks. Penelope stops and considers it for a moment. Well, she sighs, it's true that such a claim isn't objective. But since it's my mind, I suppose I determine the definition. And I say it's aberrant. I don't like the idea of something as important as my own emotions being determined seemingly by random chance. It bothers me on practical and personal levels. Well, as you know, there's two ways we can go about managing your emotions. We can modify them directly through animancy, or we can take the longer, slower way. We can talk, we can introspect, and we can work as a team. Well, I suppose animancy is what got me into this mess, Penelope scowls. So I'm in your hands, Jaleesa Vita. You're also in your own hands, Penelope, Jalisa answers. Don't ever forget that. Penelope smiles sadly. Oh, I won't. Together, then. Together, Jalisa confirms. Together, I agree. Let's make things better together. Chapter 186. A month later, the road to Skyhope is finished, although admittedly not used all that much. A handful of merchants walk it every week or so, but most aren't a fan of the fact that we only barter with goods rather than money. That's okay. I'm told these things take time. Repeatedly, by Penelope, whenever I start getting impatient. Which is a lot. Thankfully, I've got her and also our Liriope-bound lumber, food, and water projects to keep me busy. I'm still a little mad how much better this teleportation circle is compared to mine, Margaret grumbles, marking the metal strips we delivered with her forelegs. Liriope's spatial magic is based on thousands of years of iteration and advancement, I remind her. You made the portal to Penelope's house from scratch. That's way more impressive. Did we really have to take it apart and use it as materials, though? Margaret whines. That's like insult to injury. I don't know what to tell you, I shrug, munching on a spare chunk of metal. You're super awesome and smart, Margaret. That's the whole reason we're trusting you to build this in the first place. Don't sell yourself short. You're both short, Penelope announces, descending down from above us, a blue tint to her scales complementing her long, blue dress. Well, hello to you too, Penny, I smirk, prompting her to whip her tail around my waist and lift me high into the air, shaking me a bit before eventually dangling my face upside down in front of hers. Don't call me Penny, you little bug, she insists firmly, though she can't hide her smirk. Yes, Lady Vesuvius, I say in my fanciest possible voice. Of course, Lady Vesuvius. She grabs my face and pulls me in, planting a kiss on my forehead as I start laughing. All right, do you mind if I steal Vida away, Margaret? Penelope asks. The usual church liaison is arriving shortly and I need to hurt some things before I'm stuck talking to them for hours again. Why do you need Vida for that? Margaret asks. I don't really, I just love her. Oh, fair enough, Margaret nods. Yeah, there's plenty I can handle on my own for now. Have fun torturing monsters. Technically, I am productively contributing to our meat storage. Penelope grins before dropping me into her arms and flying off. I suppose I could fly under my own power, but this is pretty nice too. From up here it's easy to see the expansions we've made to the town, which actually is a name now, Mimas. Tal picked it out. Mimas mostly looks the same as it did a month ago, just bigger. Expanding outward in every direction, we've managed to fairly quickly construct enough homes for the slow trickle of new immigrants to our weird little town, which is the other reason I'm happy with our road. The draw of living here is pretty simple. We take anyone, no matter how poor and hungry, and we give them all their basic needs. We feed them, we clothe them, we give them a home. Then, if they're able to work, they work. If they refuse to work, or they refuse to work well, we have a talk about whether or not this is the right place for them. So far, though, it hasn't been an issue. The sort of person desperate enough to ask the necromancers for help generally knows how to get a fucking job done. Speaking of jobs, most of the jobs we of the mortals do involve the very things required to give them those basic needs in the first place, but a handful of volunteers do help direct dregs for the non-town development projects, namely the resource collection and storage we're performing to prepare for the needs of Liriope. Part of which Penelope and I are contributing to now, by hiding out into the middle of the forest and torturing animals. Better than torturing people. It's important for giant dragon women to receive proper enrichment. True. Penelope has been doing a lot better, all things considered. She's mostly settled out, though her emotions are still a bit more volatile than they used to be. Bigger, stronger, and more prone to changing unexpectedly. Her soul still has a lot of motion in it, the bubbles roiling like a convection current with chunks of unanchored principle dancing around in the flow. She giggles, actually giggles, as we fly by some larger creatures in the deep woods and set their insides to a low boil, her scales rippling through various shades of blue. I don't comment on it. She's pretty self-conscious about her mood swings, and there's no need to prod the issue while we're out here for some stress relief. She's not dangerously unstable or crazy or anything, just unused to feeling things, still. Perhaps there's some level of brokenness to it, but even though she gets a lot more upset than she used to, she's a lot happier as well. We both agree that's a net good. Honestly, all things considered, everything is going great. Tal and I are still two people yet also one person, which is weird, and Vodka is still being a bunch of bigoted dumbasses, which is business as usual, but it's hard to argue that this is anything less than the top contender for the happiest time in my life. There's just nothing pressing hanging over my head. No threats, no danger, no problems looming on the horizon. Even back in Liriope there was the stress of being outed as Vita followed by the stress of handling Verdantop's takeover. But now? Nothing. We have a plan and it's working. Life hasn't been this good since the last time Penelope and I started dating. About 3 months after which a perception event hit the city I was living in. Which is about the same time frame as when Liriope next passes over. But that's a coincidence, probably. Surely nothing like that will happen twice, right? Oh, Vita. Nora pokes me from inside the world of our oceans. By any chance are you available to work out that in-person meeting we agreed to have? Your Thanatos side's progenitor knows how to get to my island, if transportation is an issue. Ugh. I should have known better than to have nice things. Sure, Nora, I sent back. I should be home in just under a quarter of a year. I expect to have time then. A year according to which island cluster? Nora asks. Liriope's? Yeah, I confirm. Are you not in our island cluster? Islands don't orbit the entire Mistwatcher, they float around in big patterns with about 100 other islands that form each other's day-night cycles by moving in a series of tight rings. This is an island cluster, and is one of those facts that was really obvious to Melrosa but really mind-blowing to Vita. No, darling, I'm trying to stay hidden. Why would I plant a scorched earth bioweapon like the Drothizo in my own island cluster? Though now that I think about it I suppose that means you should make sure they don't wipe out any islands nearby. That could get dangerous for you in a decade or two. Catch the wrong sort of attention, if you know what I mean. I see, I send back, resisting my temptation to call her an absolute fucking maniac. Thanks for the warning, Nora. Sorry, honey. I wouldn't have seeded my babies there if I knew you'd pop up underneath, honest. And on one hand I really appreciate that. Really, I do. It's great to have someone as powerful as Nora just kind of unconditionally in my corner. When I first met her, I was so surprised that a powerful person was genuinely happy to have me around that I didn't really have it in me to judge her all that much. Every day I spend working alongside mortals makes me a little more frustrated at her casual disregard of them, though. I wonder if she's right or not. Will I lose touch as time passes? Jalisa says I've been getting better, lately, but will that all reverse once she's gone? I could keep her around forever, I suppose, but I don't know if she wants that. And maybe she'll eventually start agreeing with Nora if she lives long enough, too. I want to say that won't happen. That it's unthinkable. But the person I am now would have been unthinkable to the Vita of 3 years ago. I am all too intimately aware of how drastically a person can change. I table those thoughts for now, though. I don't want Nora picking up on any strong emotions on the subject. Did you want me to come alone? I ask her. Oh, whatever you like. She answers. Bring friends or pets if you have any, I'd love to meet them. Okay, I'll see if anyone is interested, I tell her. Talk to you later. See you soon, Vita. I focus my senses back on the real world, a somewhat concerned Penelope meeting my gaze. Everything all right? She asks. Well, I sigh. We've officially reached the stage in our relationship where you've been invited to meet my family. Oh. She asks. Which one? The dangerous one. Ah, good, Penelope says dryly. All this lovely blue in my life has me feeling a little off-kilter. Black and blue, though. That's more my element. Black, blue, and yellow, I sigh. My kind are just sort of a big old bruise, aren't we? I'm sure it won't be that bad, Penelope says, giving me a reassuring squeeze. With everything we've been through, how much more fucked up can it get? That's the problem, I grumble. I was really hoping we wouldn't have to find out. She laughs, since she's in one of those laughing moods. It's cute though. You can't say it doesn't lift our spirits. Yeah, okay, she's fucking adorable, but I was being serious. I don't need this dread suffusing what should have been another good day. I don't like owing Nora a favor. Not one bit. I don't either, but as evil as she is, she genuinely likes us. We know that, we can feel that from her emotions. It won't be that bad. If we're important to her plans, we'll have a lot of room to negotiate. If we're not important to her plans, she won't expect much from us in the first place. I think she's more than happy with just staying out of each other's way and having each other's backs against the Mistwatcher. Ugh, I know. You're right. I'm just worried about it anyway, you know? Things don't get to go right for me. Talking to yourself, Zoe? Penelope asks. Oh, yeah, sorry, I nod. Tal and I were just discussing Nora. I have to admit, I'm somewhat excited to meet her, Penelope smiles. She's the most powerful biomancer we know of, possibly even the most powerful biomancer in the entire world. She can make entire species from scratch. It's making me giddy to even think about. Yeah. That will be pretty cool, I agree, reaching up to plant my face on her lips for a kiss. I get the impression that she'll be pretty excited to show off her design process to someone that will actually understand it. She's super smart, and she loves to talk. It is kind of funny how the woman who keeps decrying the value of mortal relationships seems to have latched onto you like a particularly lonely kitten, Penelope muses when she pulls away from the kiss. Oh, I don't really need you, I'm very strong and independent and wait, don't go, keep paying attention to me. She's not that clingy. I protest, though I can't help but chuckle alongside her. We only talk like once every couple 10 days. Yes, and on the time frame she claims a mighty immortal of her noble peerage works on, that's practically every couple minutes. Do you honestly think there's anyone she both respects and actually communicates with as much as she does with you? You might have a point, I concede. I guess we'll find out when we meet her in person. I guess we will, Penelope nods. What do you think her body looks like? I mean, whatever she wants it to look like, I shrug. Yes, that's my question, silly, Penelope chuckles, booping me where a nose would be if I had one. She's a self-proclaimed goddess whose favorite hobby is fucking abiogenesis. What does a biomancer like that do to herself? I don't have the slightest clue, I admit. Who knows what she started out like, but I guess my impression of her is that she's careful. Her first and biggest priority is avoiding the attention of the Mistwatcher, so I wouldn't be surprised if her body isn't really all that impressive. It's not like it actually matters to her if her body dies, so why spend a bunch of time on it? Perhaps. I feel like she'd be able to find a middle ground between safety and vanity, though. She has to stay entertained somehow, and she certainly seems like she has an ego. Yeah, I guess that's true, I agree. I don't know. I get the impression that she wants it to be a surprise. Which means it's more fun for everyone if we try to guess. Penelope points out brightly. Okay, I'll keep thinking about it, my lady, I agree, jabbing her lightly in the side. You should get going to the meeting, though. Oh fuck, I suppose I should, she groans, her scales shifting from blue to orange. It's so hard to focus on administration when I'm like this. Downside of the bubbly days, I suppose. You'll manage, I assure her. I'll manage, she agrees. I've destroyed armies and humbled nations, I'm not going to let a random mood swing stop me. You get back to Margaret, I'm sure she's already lonely without you. Oh, no doubt, I smirk, since Margaret has almost certainly gotten so enraptured in spell formulae that she's forgotten I even exist. Honestly, She's probably the revenant who has best adapted to the removed compulsions to love and obey me. She just kind of does her own thing and doesn't seem bothered by our history at all. The same cannot be said about everyone else. Theodora rather understandably never wants to see me again, and while she can't really leave and move to a different town due to being undead, she certainly doesn't want to be around me. She has handed off the soul storage and recovery project to Penelope and Margaret, and as a courtesy I've been keeping track of her location in town and ensuring we don't run into each other. She seems to appreciate it, but she also gets a bit traumatized whenever she catches herself appreciating it, which is just. I don't really know what to do. Jalisa has been talking to her, though, and I think that's been helping. Jalisa is great. Most of my other revenants have retained some level of affection towards me, but our interactions have become somewhat awkward. Vitamin is the worst of all. We haven't really talked about it, but she doesn't call me Mom anymore. Which is honestly pretty fair. I haven't really done anything other than coo over her like she's a pet. Having time to relax and think about things isn't always all that fun, it turns out. Then of course there's Nora, who still stubbornly refuses to give me consent to unmind control her, and that's notably strange because I've made it very clear that I want to remove her compulsion to love, obey, and agree with me, but she's still saying no, which contradicts that compulsion. I have no idea what that means, but she freaks out whenever I bring it up and I just don't know how to breach the subject anymore. So that's just kind of in a holding pattern. I have a theory on that, actually. Tal pipes up. In many ways, Nora's death was an act of betrayal by both sides. She tried to push us into something that would have ultimately ended up as an earlier stay in Site 4, and when we actually went to Site 4 we made sure she witnessed a lot of the torture they did to us, because we are spiteful assholes. That pretty obviously fucked her up and gave her a massive guilt complex, because of course being forced to watch someone you're incapable of not loving be tortured by something you tried to do to them would fuck someone up and give them a massive guilt complex. And yet, she still remembers what it was like to feel so certain that she was right, that we would be okay. She still remembers the horror at what we had done, the need to make us understand how evil necromancy is, and she's lucid enough to know that feeling will only multiply if she is freed. She'll hate us when we stop making her love us, and she loves us too much to want that. Unfortunately, understanding the problem doesn't actually supply us a workable solution. Huh. I'm in control of the body now. When did it happen? Zoe doesn't answer me, but that's okay. She might not be around, so to speak, but she's de facto listening since our memories are identical even if we think in slightly different ways. I land next to Margaret and get to work, lamenting how unnecessarily difficult this task is. If Vita hadn't hollowed out our memory core we might have been able to integrate it rather than subsuming Melrosa's soul in its entirety, and having a perfect memory of how to do this task would have made it a lot easier. As Melrosa we used to be able to follow memories almost automatically, letting our body suffuse itself with perfect knowledge of a task even if we had never done it before in our life. Now we have to actually think about it, and it's kind of a pain. We spend most of the day on the teleporter, and most of the next day, too. Time seems to move oddly quickly when everything is peaceful, a relaxed body and mind somehow letting the minutes and hours slip by unnoticed. I find myself as Tal more than I find myself as Zoe, as I inherited more of Melrosa's outlook than Zoe did, and Melrosa was much more used to peaceful, happy days, not to mention being at least trained in social maneuvering. Melrosa's memories have made us a lot better at that, but we're obviously still not the best. Personally, I think Melrosa had a lot of the same problems Vita did in that area, which is part of why they meshed so well. It's weird comparing the two people we were to the two people we are now, but I think the perspective is useful. Another month passes before we know it, and soon that becomes a month and change. It's hard not to get anxious as Liriope drifts closer, worries and fears about the supply of raw material not being enough to impress the queens, but logically I know they shouldn't have any tangible objections. There's a lot more of home to look forward to than there is to be afraid of. I'm somewhat annoyed that Nora is calling me to visit her so soon, honestly, because it'll necessarily cut into the time I'm hoping to spend with my Thanatos family, introducing them to Verdantop friends and, of course, to Penelope. All the more reason to make the most of it, though. The teleporter is finished, and in just a few minutes Liriope will be close enough for us to test it. I'll be seeing Tala again soon. Nearly everyone I care about on the island is here to see me off. Lynn, Rowan, my human siblings, Ultrix, To Kill, Vitamin, Lark, Jalisa, and of course, Penelope. Only the last of that group is actually going to come with me. All my human relations agreed they'd be more comfortable meeting Talanika if I bring her here. Hiverak, as they insist on calling it, is still kind of a boogeyman to the people of Verdantop. To Kill says he's happiest working for us, and the jobs we have him doing are here, and Lark just doesn't seem to have even the slightest bit of interest in Liriope culture or my family, and I can't say I blame her all that much for that. We've been getting along a lot better than we used to, but we're not exactly best friends. That's okay, though. Penelope is the most important one. I genuinely don't know if I'm up for this today, Penelope groans, her yellow eyes looking ever so slightly bloodshot. She's most likely been crying, and her scales are dark gray. Oh no. Something happened, or just one of those days? I ask hesitantly. Just one of those days, she grumbles, wiping at her face. I feel horrible, and I don't want my first impressions of your family to be colored by today's mood. I have to force the urge to make a frustrated face away. That's annoying. Really annoying. We've been looking forward to introducing Penelope to Tala for months now. Sometimes this just happens now, though, and we just have to roll with it. You can stay home then, I tell her anyway. I'll meet with Mulrosa's mother today and pick you up tomorrow. Thank you, honey, Penelope sighs exhaustedly, leaning down to kiss the top of my head. I tickle her cheeks with my antennae, and manage to get a smile out of her. Rare and precious, on days like these. I'll meet you there tomorrow, I promise. I nod. Poor Penelope. Bad days are always hard. She was pretty overwhelmed at first after going from holding all emotions back to not being able to control them at all, but we've been getting a handle on things together. They seem to cycle, her general mood oscillating slowly up or down with each day that passes. There are patterns to it, but it's a guessing game at best. Still, it's not like she doesn't have normal human emotions. She can be happy, sad, angry, or anything else in response to normal stimuli. There's just an undercurrent to it, where something she'd barely even pay attention to on a normal day will make her break out in tears on a bad one. Usually this is just a minor annoyance for her that doesn't impact things much, but it's first thing in the morning and she's walking up to us with tears already in her eyes. That's a pretty solid sign that she probably can't, and shouldn't, try to force herself to function normally. She'll likely be sad tomorrow as well, if less so, but honestly, it's probably better that way. If she went to Liriope in a really excited mood, she might start chatting about diseases and biology and genocide enough to freak out even an Thanatos. Also, she might ask to torture the animals in the Numa practice grounds. She gets, really excited about that kind of thing on those days. Eventually she's going to ask me to let her vivisect us and I'll end up caving, I just know it. She's so wonderful and cute, though. We've got a ping response from Liriope, Margaret announces. Initiating an animate teleport test. The finished teleportation platform is pretty darn huge, because it has to be in order to transport the sheer bulk of materials Liriope needs to import. For obvious reasons it's placed a good distance away from Mimas proper. The town has an anti-teleportation field, and even if it didn't, it's strategically foolish to put a large teleport platform inside your defenses, and even if it wasn't, we'd still want it closer to the infrastructure for gathering and storing the materials Liriope needs than to residential zones. Margaret taps a bony finger against the activation panel and pours a small burst of magic into it, and the single barrel of water we have there for testing vanishes. Okay. Affirmative response. Teleportation successful, Margaret grins happily. All right. Living matter test. Could we get the pubug onto the platform? Thank you. One of the townsfolk whose name I don't know leads one of the giant domestic beetles we make kiting tools from onto the platform, then convinces it to stay by dropping some food there, too. Then he books it the fuck out of there, because for all I've been working to garner trust among the people of Mimas, they still get intimidated by huge metal constructs made by skeletons and bug people. But nothing bad seems to happen, the bug and food all simply vanish on cue. Alright, that looked good, Margaret grins, drumming her bony fingers against her thigh with a skeletal rattle. Moment of truth, and yes. We have the confirmation ping. Subject arrived without damage. You're good to go, Vita. Thanks, Margaret, I smile, stepping up to give her a hug. She wraps her ribcage around my face, because that's a thing she likes to do for some reason. No problem, pleasure working with you. Margaret chuckles, and I move on from there. The plan is for me to only be gone a 10-day or so, though that itinerary might end up extended due to going to see Nora, especially if she is in a whole different island cluster. May as well get all the necessary hugs and cuddles out of the way now. Knock 'em dead, kiddo, Lynn says, approaching first and giving me a firm squeeze. Am not a kiddo, I fire back automatically, and she laughs. And I certainly hope I'm not going to be murdering any more family members. Why no, I could ask who you mean by more, but I think I'm learning to stay happy in ignorance. That's super fair, I nod, and move on to hug Roan next. See you later, Dad. Bye, you horrifying abomination, he answers, rustling my headset. I chuckle. Vitamin, I look to next, giving her a firm nod. Vita, the little undead girl nods back, hands on her hips. Don't adopt anyone else while you're out. No promises, I smirk. Hey, Ultrix. Hey, Tal, Nix answers. Why you two be safe, alright? Will do, Nix. Though hopefully you'll get a chance to tell me that again before I actually go see anyone dangerous. I'll worry anyway, Nix admits, and I pull her in for a hug. I'll be fine, I promise her. Love you three. We love you, too, Nix answers. Or did she mean to? You guys are all being really overdramatic for someone who's going to be away for barely 10 days, Lark comments loudly. It's not like the world is going to end the moment she leaves our sight. Everyone present turns to her, myself included, and just stares. Okay, yeah, you know what? Point retracted, Lark sighs. I'll issue a formal apology to fate. See that you do, Jaleesa says. Probably won't help, but we need every advantage we can get. Tal, Zoe, I just want to say that I'm proud of you. You've really come a long way, and it's great to see. Don't hug me, though. Wouldn't dream of it, I say, waving her goodbye. To kill, you're, doing a great job. Keep it up. Yes, Princess Molrosa. The Bugman preens. Welp, bye everybody. I announce, waving one last time and turning towards the teleportation platform. Only to get tackled by all of my little siblings at once since I've been deliberately ignoring them as a joke. We laugh and wrestle for a bit, but I eventually extract myself to give them all actual goodbyes and depart for real. My months here on Verdantop have been productive, relaxing, and wonderful, but even though this is my home, well, it feels good to be going home again. I'll pick you up an hour after first light tomorrow, okay Penelope? I call back. Just use the teleporter when you get an authorization. Will do, she nods. Love you, Vita. Have fun. I nod, step onto the platform, and let the spatial magic wash over me. In an instant, I've gone from the humid forest of Verdant up to the dry caves of Liriope, my soul suddenly flooded with a barrage of altered information. But the disorientation doesn't stop me from grinning when I hear the voice I've been looking forward to most. Malmal. I catch Tala as she runs into me, ignoring teleport platform protocol to rush forwards and nearly tackle me to the ground. She squeezes me with two arms, her other two scratching at my chest fingers running through my fuzz in a wonderfully familiar show of affection. You're back. She cries. You're really back. Are you okay? Did you get hurt? Of course not, I'm fine. I laugh. Nothing on that dinky little island can hurt me except me, and I already did that. Don't say thought, she whines. Oh progenitor, that's so morbid. I was super worried about you, you dork. And I'd say the same, but life up here is awesome, I chuckle. It's good to be back, and great to see you again. Breakfast? You haven't eaten? She asks, tilting her head. I flick her in the eye with an antennae and she yelps, jumping back. You would not believe how much worse the food is down there, Tala. Seriously, to kill from above is the only person that knows how to make a Thanatos cuisine. One person I eat with does everything in her power to boil all of the flavor out of anything she puts in her mouth. Like she'll boil something, then dump the stock that makes and boil it again in fresh water. Holy shit. Tala gulps. Does she even get any nutrients that way? Is there any point to eating at all? Right? I laugh. I mean, I still eat her cooking. Food is food, but I'm starting to suspect she keeps feeding me in an attempt to get me to stop thinking that way, or something. And it's kind of working. Stop getting you to think that way? What way? That all food is good food, I shrug. Apparently getting anxious about food insecurity isn't healthy when you're not actually food insecure anymore, but I don't know. I still feel like it's best to clean the plate, right? I guess I don't really know either. Tala laughs lightly. Gosh, I forgot how weird you are. Come on, we'll go get breakfast at the usual place. Sounds great. We eat and talk, and I tell my sister about my Verdantop adventures, killing ours, being convinced not to take over, brokering a hesitant peace with Vodka, and then just kind of getting to relax instead of actually fighting the war I expected to be fighting. Gosh, that all sounds exciting, Tala says. I guess it's easy to see why the humans don't like animancy if that Ars guy is all they had for reference. He sounds terrible. No wonder your soul is such a mess if that dude made it. Hey! I protest. He didn't really make it, he just copied it from somewhere, or something. I dunno, I didn't really grill him for information much. Maybe he found part of Red Soul or something. Who's Red? Well, you know who mentioned that we used to have another brother who was killed by the one below all, and his color was red. Oh. Huh. Yeah, maybe, who knows? Tala says. You called or revived him and asked, I guess. It wasn't worth it, I shrug. Where I come from doesn't matter to me. I don't really care how Ars got his hands on whatever anima ended up as Vita any more than I care about the fact that her original body was supposedly his biological son. You and I have blood ties, Tala, but the way I see it that's not what makes us sisters. The love is, and nothing else. Oh, Tala coos. Though. That sounds like a good transition to talking about Mom. Yeah, I nod. Yeah, I guess it is. Is she available? For us. Pretty much always, yeah, Tala nods. The progenitor wants to talk to you as well, but apparently it's not urgent. So no having her personal guards show up during mealtime, huh? I smirk. Well, that's nice. Honestly, I'd rather make the rounds tomorrow, because that's when I'm gonna show Penelope around. Don't want to have to say hello to everyone twice in a row. Oh yeah. I'm really looking forward to meeting her, Tala says happily. Though, why no, fair warning, not all the queens or even all the men are likely to be nice to her. I doubt there's any vitriol they can throw at her she hasn't handled before, I dismiss, though privately I'm kind of worried. She'll probably still be a little fragile tomorrow, emotionally speaking. Hopefully it'll all be okay. I still can't believe you're dating an immortal bipedal dragon. Tala whines. With a self-designed body. She's like a young progenitor, it's so cool. Penelope is very cool, I agree, appreciating all the praise about my awesome girlfriend. Though to get back on topic, why no? Do you think Mom would get along with her? Or I guess more generally, what's Mom even like? Yeah, you don't remember her all that well, huh? Tala frowns. I don't really know how much I should say. I guess. I don't know. Her default mood is bitter, but outside of that she is not so bad. She loves us, She just hates Liriope. And we don't. She's under house arrest for treason, right? I ask. What did she do, exactly? Wait, you don't remember that? Tala asks. Seriously? Come on, Mal, it was treason. What do you think she did? I mean, I don't remember how it works here, but in Skyhope there's apparently like a bajillion things you can do to get convicted of treason. It basically just means you annoyed the king. Wait, they have a king. That's disgusting. Focus, Tala. Oh, I mean that's basically what treason is here. You make Grandmama mad enough, you get convicted of treason. But like, you've talked with her. She gets annoyed easily, but actually making her mad. Seriously, you get one guess. What do you think Mom did? I dunno, try to kill her? I guess randomly. It certainly makes me mad when people do that. Ding ding ding. You got it, Tala confirms. I stare at her in surprise. Wait, seriously? Yeah, seriously. She got her ass kicked and her magical knowledge locked away, naturally, but she tried. Whoa. How old were we when this happened, again? Gosh, I was pretty young, she muses. Probably only like 4 or so. Wow. She's just been stuck in her house for decades. No wonder she's bitter. Oh, hey Zoe. Sup? Yeah, wow. I have no idea how she feels about the current you, honestly, but I did tell her you were coming. Thanks, Tala, I nod. Did you want me to come with you to see her? She asks. Nah, it's fine, I assure her. I have lots of practice dealing with moms I don't really remember. Thanks for the offer, though. She chuckles, flicking a smile at me with her eyes. It is really weird having you back, Mal, she says. But it's a really good weird. Welcome home. Happy to be here, I agree, standing up. Time to go to Mom's home, I guess. Catch you afterwards. Sure, Tala allows. See you then. We exit the restaurant and then I lift off into the sky, flying lazily towards my destination. I don't really remember Melrose's mom, but I do know her name, Queen Galrada, and I know where she lives. While she is trapped inside the home she built before being convicted of treason, it's still the home of a queen and it's substantially more fancy than my own house here in Liriope. An imposing 3 stories, Galrada's house juts upwards like a castle's tower. It's harsher, sharper, and more utilitarian than the homes around it, indicating our mother was probably a proud war queen. Perhaps that's where we get the inclination. We land outside, a respectful distance away from the men guarding the place. House arrest is still arrested, after all, so while Galrada has male servants they perform the double duty of keeping an eye on her and preventing her from leaving. She's still a queen of Liriope, so I doubt she's wanting for much, but it probably grates to know your own servants aren't really on your side. Princess Melrosa, here to see Queen Galrada, I announce, and the guards wordlessly let me inside. Sparse decorations in the entry hall. Intentional, or were the old decorations removed and never replaced? A war queen might decorate their front hallway with weapons. A treasonous queen wouldn't be allowed to keep them. I don't really know the layout of the house, but it's pretty easy to assume the only queen here is Galrada, so I make my way over to her. She's on the ground floor, so it doesn't take long for me to find the wide, flat room with padded floors that she's currently inside, practicing some sort of martial art. Definitely a war queen then, wow. No magic, no weapons, but still a fighter. I kinda like her. Queen Galrada, I greet her, nodding respectfully. She doesn't respond at first, completing her current set of motions before turning to me, a perfectly controlled blank expression on her face. As if an expression would help us know what she's feeling. She's surprised, relieved, frustrated, and a little hurt by our chosen address. Have I been downgraded from mother so soon? She sighs, her voice flat. I was hoping to at least manage to keep the title until you were an adult. Apologies, I answer. Did Tala not tell you? She informed me of the salient points. Yes, Queen Galrada answers. That you fused with someone from another island. That you don't remember me. I suppose part of me didn't want to believe it. Only part of you didn't want to believe that your daughter doesn't remember who you are. I ask, walking further into the room. Was our relationship that bad? I'd been afraid that it was, honestly. What little memory I do have of Queen Galrada is vague, but pretty universally unpleasant. Not in a devoid of love way, but I think we argued a lot. Well, she shrugs, I did try to assassinate the progenitor. Like most of us, you could never understand why. Though. Maybe you can now. I can. Most people I know wanted to destroy Liriope before I became a part of it, myself included. Part of that was ignorance, of course, only seeing the faceless enemy of Hiveric without even a hint of the beauty it holds inside. But I know a lot of humans that would want to destroy this place on principle. The sheer difference in role between worker and queen here is anathema to how most humans comprehend justice, despite the fact that they self-perpetuate and self-justify dramatically worse systems as a matter of routine. I've certainly broadened my perspective, I nod. But that's the thing, I can very easily understand why a member of a different species would try to destroy Liriope, but not why a queen would want to. And what other purpose but destabilizing our society does killing the progenitor serve? She shrugs. It was never about the city of Liriope, she answers. Not really. It was about the nation, the ideal. The progenitor would have us be isolationists, taking what we need to survive and ignoring everything else. She not only does not care about the world outside our borders, she actively discourages people from caring. We could stop so much pain and suffering if we just put in the effort. Huh? That doesn't add up at all. That was pretty much my argument on why I should be allowed to handle the conquest of my own island, I tell her. And Grandmama pretty much just said sure, go for it. She didn't care, and I bet she wouldn't have cared if you went to other islands and helped people. If helping people is what you wanted, it seems like that'd make a lot more sense than trying to assassinate her. Well, that's all I would have done, if the progenitor hadn't decided to become part of the problem. What problem, exactly? I ask. She turns away from me, scowling. This feels familiar. Like we might have had this conversation before, when Melrosa was less cool-headed. I think that something about the answer she's going to give me really frustrated me back then. I can't tell you. I mean yeah, that would do it. You can't tell me? I ask. Is it classified? Why didn't they remove classified information from your memories? Because punishing someone for something but not letting them remember the reason they committed their crime would be monstrous, Melrosa, she answers. And I'll admit the progenitor has some basic idea of decency. Just not where it counts. Well, is there anything you can tell me? I ask. A hint or something? I guess it's not a huge deal, but I am pretty curious. I manage to break her even expression when I say that, which I find oddly satisfying. Not a huge deal. She chuckles humorlessly. The reason your mother is trapped, hated, and shunned by your entire society isn't a huge deal to you anymore? You'll outlive the punishment, I shrug. And I don't particularly care what anyone else thinks of you. I form my own opinions. I don't have my memories of you, so our relationship will never be the same again. But I can tell you care about Tala and I, and you seem reasonable enough. So yeah, I'm curious. Why sacrifice so much and risk fighting one of the most powerful women in the world for a chance at whatever it was you wanted? I told you already I can't. Wait. She gives me an odd look. One of the most powerful women in the world? You think there's someone stronger than the progenitor? Ah shoot, that's right, I'm not supposed to talk about Nora here. Well, I stutter. Why no. World's a big place. Logically there's probably someone out there stronger than Grandmama. Galrada gives us a look. She doesn't buy it. Crap. I'm just saying, hypothetically, if there was something, it'd be something the progenitor lifted me off the ground by the throat over, so I'm not really super keen on getting grilled for information on the subject, I supply. You know about Nora, Galrada concludes. You have to. You used to not even have the conception of someone stronger than the progenitor. I don't even think there's anyone else she suppresses information on. Wait, you know about Nora? I ask. Oh, are you? Do you mean? Yes, exactly, Queen Garada nods. Melrosa, I tried to kill the progenitor because she entered an alliance with Nora. Tolerating that thing is morally unconscionable. Oh, I answer hesitantly. So, I guess you're probably not going to like hearing that you're related to her now, huh? She does not, in fact, like hearing it. Go figure. Tobe continued,